I started blacksmithing over 20 years ago, probably close to 30 now. The first thing I made in a shop was I had an old sledgehammer, and I went to my father-in-law's shop, and he said, just make a splitter. And so we got into his forge, and he heated it for me, and this is the splitter I made. Probably this is 30 years old. And I drew this out. That was the first time I ever moved metal. And from that point, I started more and more blacksmithing projects. I went to school, several different places. I've been to school in a place called Touchdown Center for the Crafts, which is in Farmington, Pennsylvania. And I took probably 12 lessons, 12 different weeks of training. We would go for a week in the summer, and there'd be a group of us, and we would have a master smith work with us. So I did that. I went to Maine, to New England Metal Works. I've been to Brasstown, which is John C. Campbell Folk School. And then I've just worked with some smiths off and on. And I was lucky, in the school that I worked with, we had our own little blacksmith shop. We actually had an environmental center that had a barn and had a spring house, and we converted the spring house into a smithy. So I've had a lot of experience, so it's been an interesting journey. And as you look around the shop, as you pan,
there you go.
You will see all kinds of equipment, odds and ends. One of the things with the blacksmith,
all the good stuff,
is that you learn to make your own tools. You do a lot of the stuff yourself. So if you need a tool, you'll make a tool. But the first tools I probably bought, this was the first anvil I bought here. This was the very first, bought it at an auction. And with that, I started buying old tongs, things and so forth. And I had a very rudimentary coal forge. And that's how I started, and started making some simple things. Then I took a class with the guy that actually made these kinds of furnaces, these coke furnaces, coal furnaces. And it's a teaching station, and you can work it from either side.
Yeah.
And he made this for me, and I put it in here. And so this is where I do my coal forging. This is where I can do welding and so forth. This is a much hotter fire than you can get from a propane torch.
Yeah.
And then you can see over here on the side are some of my hammers and cutters and so forth. You just gather them up over time, but eventually you'll find that there's probably only 3 or 4 hammers that you'll use most of the time.
What year did you start, you'd say?
The simplest way is to take 25 years. 25 years ago, so probably around 2000, probably a little bit before that.
Oopsie, sorry.
And
My
then
bad.
I got this over here. This is a...
I'm making a mess.
That's okay, don't worry about it. This was another investment, and this is over time. And this is a propane forge, and I use this a lot for when I'm doing work that is just a repeat, like shaping and so forth, because my metal won't burn up in here, and I can put multiple pieces in. All works off a propane tank. Doesn't get quite as hot as a coal forge, but it does a nice job. So if I'm doing vents and things, I just need some heat. This is what I use, and what's nice about it is it doesn't take as long to get your material prepped. Where in a coal forge, it takes half an hour, 40 minutes to get a good fire. Then you have to maintain that fire. My latest gathering was my uncle on my wife's side. He had this in his barn. This is an old-fashioned drill press. And it really is handy in drilling things. And actually, you can drill some things second anvil. This anvil is probably worth more than my first one. This is a Peter Wright anvil. Weighs 126 pounds. But I made a stand for it so I could have two people working. I could do projects from different sides. And that's been a help. This is a project I'm currently working on. This is going to be an arbor. There'll be another piece identical to this. This is not near finished. And there'll be a piece across the top. I bought this cheap Harbor Freight press, and I use it for some jobs. It's not good for forging. A forging press would move both ways faster. This is more for some simple jobs. The other thing that I use a lot is this. This is a treadle hammer, and this is nice because you work it with your feet. And so if you have your hands holding hot metal,
yeah,
your foot provides the power, and you do a lot of chiseling and that kind of stuff. This is an old, it's called a Little Giant Hammer. It's made by Matt Meyer, M-A-Y-E-R brothers, probably in the 20s. You can see it's pretty well used, but I use this when I want to move a lot of metal quick, and I don't want to wear my arm out. And it works by an off-center flywheel. You can see it does some funky things sometimes, but once you get it tuned up, it works very, very well. But I use it when I want to save my arm because you can only hit so often.
Yeah.
And I have two post vices. Post vices are necessary in a blacksmith shop because you're hammering on things. A machinist vice on a table doesn't work very well because you can actually break the jaws of the legs.
I did not know that.
This kind of vice is actually goes all the way down to the floor. You can see it up on that one.
Yeah.
And then your force goes all the way through it into the floor. If you have a machinist vice, there's no place for it to go, and it will actually break the vice in time if you're not strong enough. So this is a nice tool. The other tool that I invested in was, we use a torch a lot, a 7-inch torch. This is a gas saver torch.
Yeah.
And it lets me have my gas tanks on a different side of my shop, and then I can plug them in, and then I can light the pilot light here. The gas is turned off, and I would light the pilot light.
That's something I need, a little pilot light.
And then when I lift this up, it lets the gas through, lights my torch, and then I don't have to worry about it. I can use my torch, and then when I hang it up, the torch goes out, and it saves gas. You don't have to be adjusting all the time. It makes it much more possible for me to move my torch around the whole shop. That kind of movement.
What is your pilot light fueled off of? Just acetylene or?
Acetylene, yeah.
I've used, before in the welding shop, I used a candle stub. I had a whole bunch of stuff to cut out one day. I had a candle stub, just kept relighting my torch off of.
That would work the same way.
I got to get me one of those.
This has been a real lifesaver. And then I have just a common drill press. Just a common ordinary drill press, the old-fashioned one and I use this a lot. Sometimes I'll put a sanding head in here so I can sand something or grind it. This is a little drill press, but it actually works very well. You don't need a huge one for the stuff that I do. It works great for this kind of thing. And also I have a belt grinder. I have a bigger belt grinder back there that was originally used in woodworking, but I use it for some applications.
Yeah.
So the last tool of any distinction that I have here is this.
Whoopsie.
This is a
knocking stuff over.
swage block, and the swage block just gives you shapes that you can work with and helps you shape the metal that you have hot. So those are the major tools, and everything else is just a matter of using them and figuring out the best way of getting the product that you want. There you go.
That's fine with me.
Oh, one other tool. The last tool, other
pretty
than
interesting.
the welder, is I have a plasma cutter down here. I would highly recommend. I have a Hobart Air Force plasma cutter.
Yeah.
And it has saved me invaluable time cutting out basic shapes and that I can use. And so those are just overall the basis of my shop.
Do you have any art pieces you've made?
The only art pieces I guess I have in my house.
Or at least out here?
I don't have anything really here. I have the beginnings of this. This is a piece of pipe that I have forged. You can forge pipe into all kinds of shapes and so forth. This is just a piece of pipe, and the idea here was to make a vase. You can put animal heads on things.
It's pretty neat.
That's a ram's head. It's not the best one, but and then I had a task where I had to, somebody wanted a horse head. And so this is the beginnings of a horse head. This is its lower jaw. This is its mouth. We cut its ears in here, and this would have been a horse.
Did you make the molds into these?
No, these are open face molds that I use. You can actually cast with them, but I also use them. That's one of the good things for under a press. I have these. I bought them at a show. So over the years, I've gathered molds. I have some different swages that I hook up to my power hammer.
Oh, so that's what those are.
Yeah. This is a swage that I use to make acorns. Makes an acorn shape. If I hook them to my power hammer here, I made an adapter that allows me to hook them to the power hammer and sit underneath my hammer so I can put the hot stock in there. So over the years, you just make things as you need them, and they keep adding to your collection. So blacksmithing is just a matter of accumulating. I even have gotten into recently using the air gun, my air presser. I use that sometimes for some of my work.
Yeah.
So
What's been one of your favorite projects you've made over the years, even if you can't show it? But
I really don't have a favorite project. I just don't like doing multiples of any project.
I understand that.
I am not a production artist. I am more of a artist blacksmith. So I like to make one or two of something. Probably the biggest project I made most recently was I made an arbor, a 7-foot arbor.
I remember seeing a picture of that.
For a person's drawing that had like close to 200 leaves that were made one at a time. This one will be a little bit simpler for my wife. It's still in design. I have to decide what I'm going to put in here.
Looks good.
But
a koi fish, maybe?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So it'll just be a matter of time. So I'll get you started. You can add more to our video later.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right?
Yep, appreciate it.
I'm going to go in here and clean up and some people get ready.
I'm fine with 30 hands.